The alien envoy thought humanity would kneel. The human chose execution instead. Deathworld legend: the day the alien envoy arrived on Earth was calm, almost insulting in its normality. Blue skies stretched over the city of Geneva. People walked to work, traffic moved in slow lines, and news screens repeated the same headline in every language. First official galactic contact confirmed. Humanity had known about alien life for decades through distant signals and probes, but this was different. This time the universe had come to their door. The envoy's ship appeared without warning. There was no explosion, no dramatic tearing of the sky. One moment the air above Lake Geneva was empty, and the next it was not. A massive structure of black metal hovered silently, smooth and perfect, as if reality itself had stepped aside to let it exist. Sensors around the world screamed in alarm. Military satellites locked on. Civilian aircraft were grounded within seconds. The ship did nothing. No weapons powered up. No communication signals followed. It simply waited. Inside the United Nations emergency chamber, representatives from every major nation sat frozen in their seats. Some stared at live feeds of the alien vessel. Others whispered prayers. A few clenched their fists under the table. They had prepared for this moment for years, but preparation felt thin when faced with something so clearly superior. Then the message came, not through radio waves, but directly into the chamber's translation systems. The voice was deep, layered, and coldly polite. "I am Envoy Karzek of the Dominion Conquered. By authority of the Galactic Order, I address the species known as humanity." The voice carried no curiosity, no wonder. It spoke as one would speak to a solved problem. Karzek's image formed in the center of the chamber. He was tall, thin, and wrapped in ceremonial armor that looked grown rather than built. His eyes were faceted and unblinking. His posture was relaxed, confident, and completely unafraid. "You have reached a technological threshold sufficient for contact," the envoy continued. "Your planet is classified as a Class 5 death world. Your survival is statistically impressive." The words sounded like praise. They were not. "However," Karzek said, "impressive survival does not equal sovereignty." A ripple of tension moved through the room. Several representatives leaned forward. One opened their mouth to speak, then stopped. "You exist within a region governed by the Dominion Conquered," the envoy said. "All emerging species within this region are offered protection, stability, and continued existence in exchange for compliance." The envoy raised one long finger. Behind him, a projection appeared showing star systems, lines of conquest, and thousands of worlds marked in the same color. "Your role has already been assessed," Karzek said. "Earth will function as a resource and labor support world. Your governments will remain intact under Conquered oversight. Resistance is neither expected nor advised." The silence that followed was heavy. The envoy watched them closely, expecting fear. Fear always came first. Sometimes it turned into pleading, sometimes into anger. It always ended the same way, kneeling. But the humans did not kneel, they did not shout, they did not beg, they did not even argue, they simply listened. That unsettled Karzek more than he liked to admit. He had negotiated with species that had claws, acid blood, hive minds, and living warships. Deathworlders were usually violent, emotional, and easy to manipulate. Humans were different. They were still, controlled, and dangerously quiet. "Do you understand the terms?" Karzek asked. A human stood. Not a military general, not a politician known across the planet, just a man in a dark suit, gray hair at his temples, eyes sharp but calm. His name was Elias Morin, Earth's appointed liaison for first contact. "We understand your words," Morin said evenly. Karzek tilted his head. "Then you will comply." Morin did not answer immediately. He glanced around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from rival nations who for once shared the same expression. Resolve. "There is a question," Morin said. Karzek allowed himself a thin smile. Questions were normal. Questions meant bargaining. "Ask," the envoy said. "You said survival does not equal sovereignty," Morin said. "Who decides sovereignty?" "The Conquered," Karzek replied without hesitation. "We maintain order. Order requires hierarchy." Morin nodded slowly, as if filing the answer away. "And if a species refuses," Karzek's smile widened, "then it is corrected." The word was chosen carefully. Corrected sounded cleaner than erased. The envoy gestured again and new images appeared, worlds burning, fleets shattered, civilizations reduced to silence. "This is not a threat," Karzek said. "It is precedent." Still, the humans did not react. No shouting, no panic. Only silence. Karzek felt irritation creep into his thoughts. He decided to apply pressure, a simple test, one that had broken dozens of worlds before. To formalize compliance, he said, a symbolic act is required. Morin's eyes hardened slightly. Explain. A demonstration of submission, Karzek said. Your species values individuals, leadership, military honor. Therefore, the conquered requires the execution of one of your uniformed officers, publicly by your own hand. Gasps filled the chamber. Several representatives surged to their feet, shouting in different languages. Security forces tensed. Karzek watched with satisfaction. There it was, emotion, disorder, fear. Morin raised one hand. Slowly, the noise died down. You are asking us to kill one of our own, Morin said. Yes, Karzek replied calmly, to prove you understand your place. Morin studied the envoy's image. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke again. You assume fear will make us obey. Karzek leaned forward slightly. Fear is efficient, Morin exhaled quietly. You misunderstand humanity, Karzek straightened. Clarify. We come from a death world, Morin said. Not because it tried to kill us once, but because it tried every day, disease, weather. Predators, each other. The envoy listened, unimpressed. We learned something early, Morin continued. Survival without dignity is just a slower form of extinction. The room was completely silent now. You believe you are offering us life, Morin said. But what you are offering is surrender, and surrender is not life to us. Karzek's patience thinned. Your philosophy is irrelevant. The execution will proceed. Morin nodded. For the first time since the envoy's arrival, he smiled. Very well, Morin said. We agree. Karzek blinked. That was unexpected. Compliance should not have come so easily. The execution will take place immediately, Morin continued. Broadcast to your conquered, to ours, to everyone. Karzek's smile returned. Wise, Morin turned to the chamber. Prepare the platform. As humans moved into action, Karzek watched carefully. Something felt wrong. There was no despair in their movements, no grief, only precision. Who will be executed? Karzek asked. Morin looked back at him. I will inform you shortly, he said. Minutes later, a platform rose outside, positioned directly beneath the hovering alien ship. Cameras from across the world focused on it. Billions watched in horror, confusion, and disbelief. Karzek stood on the platform, surrounded by human guards. He towered over them, confident and untouchable. Galactic law protected him. No species had ever violated it and survived. Morin stepped forward. The Dominion conquered demanded an execution, he said, his voice carried across the planet. A demonstration of submission. He paused. Humanity does not submit. Karzek's eyes widened. Morin turned, gesturing toward the envoy. The condemned is Envoy Karzek. For the first time in his long career, the alien envoy felt fear. And humanity, at last, had made its choice. The silence that followed Morin's words was heavier than any sound. Across Earth, billions watched the broadcast in disbelief. In the United Nations chamber, no one moved. Even the wind over Lake Geneva seemed to pause. Envoy Karzek stood frozen on the platform, his confidence shattered in a single sentence. This is a violation of galactic law, Karzek said at last. His voice trembled despite every effort to control it. You will be erased for this. Ilias Morin did not respond immediately. He stepped back, giving space, as if this moment deserved room to exist on its own. Around them, human guards stood still, weapons lowered but ready, faces calm and unreadable. Galactic law does not rule Earth, Morin said finally. You came to our world and demanded blood to prove obedience. We chose truth instead. Karzek's mind raced. No species had ever reached this point. Fear was supposed to collapse resistance long before defiance. The conquered's power was absolute. Its laws were enforced by fleets that darkened stars. You are making a mistake born of pride, the envoy said. Killing me will not save you. It will ensure your destruction. Morin looked up at the hovering alien ship, then back at Karzek. We are aware. That answer shook the envoy more than anger ever could. The execution was swift. There was no spectacle, no cruelty, no celebration. Human justice was precise and deliberate. When it was over, the platform was empty except for Morin and the guards. Across the galaxy, the broadcast ended in stunned silence. Within seconds, alarms erupted inside conquered command space. Analysts, admirals, and governors stared at the same frozen image replayed again and again. A client species had executed a conquered envoy. not in war. Not in panic, but calmly, publicly, and without apology. "This is impossible," one commander whispered. "It has happened," another replied, and they did not hesitate. Within minutes, emergency councils convened across dozens of star systems. Long-standing assumptions cracked under the weight of a single human decision. Earth did not celebrate. Cities remained quiet. Military forces moved into pre-planned defensive positions. Satellites shifted. Fleets launched from hidden facilities. Humanity had always known this day might come, even if they had hoped it never would. Morin stood alone in a secure chamber deep beneath the city. Screens around him displayed data streams from across the planet and beyond. Fleet movements, alien communications, probabilities. A woman entered the room, her uniform simple and unmarked. "They're reacting faster than expected," she said. Morin nodded. "They always do once fear fails." "They will come," she said, "in force." "Yes," Morin replied, "but not immediately." She studied him. "You're certain?" "They don't understand us yet," he said. "That makes them cautious. Predators pause when prey behaves strangely." Above Earth, the alien ship still hovered, silent and unmoving. It had not fired, it had not fled, it had simply stopped. Inside the vessel, chaos reigned. The crew had never been trained for this scenario. Envoys were untouchable. That was the foundation of conquered diplomacy. Now their leader was gone, and the humans stood unpunished beneath them. "What are your orders?" one officer asked. There were none. The ship's command systems attempted to contact conquered space. Responses came back fragmented and delayed. Signals bounced through layers of encrypted channels, filled with disbelief and urgent debate. "Hold position," came the eventual command. "Do not engage." The order confused the crew. The humans had crossed a line. This was the moment annihilation was supposed to follow. But the conquered had learned long ago that rushing into the unknown was costly. Back on Earth, Morin addressed the Global Council in private. "We have crossed a point of no return," he said. "There will be consequences. Some of them will be severe." No one argued. "But we did not choose this path today," Morin continued. "We chose at the moment we decided we would never kneel." A representative from a former rival nation spoke quietly. "If they come with fleets, can we survive?" Morin did not lie. "Not in a prolonged war." The room stiffened. "But they don't know that," he added, "and we intend to keep it that way." Humanity's greatest weapon was not its ships or weapons. It was uncertainty. The conquered had built its empire on predictable fear. Humanity had just shattered that pattern. Hours passed. The alien ship did not move. Then finally a new signal arrived, not a command. Not a threat, a request. "Human authority," the translation systems announced. "The Dominion conquered requests communication." Morin allowed himself a slow breath. "They're adapting." The connection opened. A new face appeared, older and more guarded than Karzek had been. "I am Administrator Velsun," the alien said. "You have committed an unprecedented act." "Yes," Morin replied, "we have." "You have destabilized centuries of order," Velsun said. "Do you understand the consequences?" Morin leaned forward slightly. "Do you understand why we did it?" Velsun hesitated. That pause was everything. "You could have negotiated," the administrator said. "We tried," Morin replied. "Your envoy demanded submission sealed with blood." "Symbolism," Velsun said weakly. "Symbolism matters," Morin said, "especially when it teaches a species it is lesser." Velsun studied the human carefully. "You are dangerous." "Yes," Morin said, "but not careless." The administrator's eyes narrowed. "What do you want?" Morin did not smile this time. "Recognition," he said, "sovereignty, and assurance that no envoy will ever again demand our obedience at the cost of our dignity." Velsun leaned back, clearly troubled. "You are asking the conquered to rewrite its laws," the alien said. "No," Morin replied. "We are informing you that they already have been rewritten. You just haven't accepted it yet." The connection ended without resolution. Across the galaxy, smaller species watched closely. Whispers spread through trade routes and hidden channels. Humanity had done what no one else dared. They had drawn a line and held it. On Earth, night fell. Morin stood by a window overlooking the city. Lights stretched to the horizon, fragile and beautiful. A voice spoke behind him. "Do you think they'll forgive us?" Morin did not turn. "Forgiveness implies guilt. And survival?" Morin looked out at the stars. "Survival has never been our goal." The alien ship finally began to move, pulling away from Earth's orbit without a single shot fired. Humanity did not cheer, they watched. They waited. And somewhere in the vast machinery of the galaxy, fear had found a new direction. Not toward humans, but away from them, information moved faster than ships ever could. Across thousands of worlds, recordings of the execution replayed in private chambers, military halls, and hidden refugee networks. Species that had lived under the Dominion conquered for generations watched the same moment again and again, struggling to understand it. A Deathworld species had executed a conquered envoy and survived the first day. That alone changed everything. In conquered space, Administrator Velsun stood before a council that had not gathered in this form for centuries. The chamber was vast, filled with representatives of powerful species, each one chosen for obedience as much as capability. Their voices overlapped in anger, fear, and disbelief. "They must be destroyed immediately," one counselor hissed. "If this stands, every client species will question us." "They already are," another replied. "Signals are spreading, underground channels, refuge worlds are watching." Velsun raised a hand, forcing silence. "Destruction is not as simple as it once was." A projection appeared in the center of the chamber. Human fleet movements, defensive formations, energy signatures that did not match known technology. "Our analysts underestimated them," Velsun continued. "They are not powerful in scale, but they are efficient, adaptive. Their systems are designed for survival, not expansion." "Then overwhelm them," a war-minded counselor snapped. Velsun turned slowly. "With what certainty?" The counselor did not answer. For the first time in a very long time, the conquered faced an enemy it did not fully understand. Humanity did not behave like prey. They did not lash out. They did not beg. They prepared quietly and completely. On Earth, that preparation continued without pause. Deep beneath mountains and oceans, human command centers worked in synchronized silence. There were no speeches, no flags waved. Humanity had learned long ago that survival was built on coordination, not pride. Ilias Morin moved through one such facility, watching data scroll past transparent screens. Engineers adjusted systems that had never been tested outside simulations. Officers reviewed plans written years before first contact. A young analyst looked up as Morin passed. "Sir, we're detecting indirect signals, not hostile, observation drones." Morin nodded. "Let them watch." "They'll learn our capabilities," the analyst said. "They'll learn what we want them to learn," Morin replied. Human strategy had always relied on controlled exposure. Show enough strength to deter, hide enough to remain unpredictable. On a death world, anything fully revealed was already dead. In orbit, Earth's defensive network adjusted itself subtly. Satellites shifted positions, forming patterns that looked inefficient to outside observers but allowed rapid reconfiguration. Human ships remained close to home, never chasing, never provoking. The conquered noticed. "They're not posturing," one conquered admiral said during a fleet briefing. "They're building layers." "Layers for what?" another asked. "Endurance," the admiral replied. "They expect a long game." That unsettled them more than open aggression ever could. Meanwhile, far from conquered core space, a small transport vessel drifted through a hidden corridor. Inside were representatives of 3 minor species, their forms wrapped in cloaks and secrecy. "They actually did it," one whispered. "They killed the envoy." "And the conquered hesitated," another said. "That has never happened." The third leaned forward. "The humans didn't attack afterward, they didn't threaten, they waited." Silence filled the vessel as the implication settled. "They might be different," the first said softly. "Not conquerors." "Or worse," the second replied. "They might be free." Back on Earth, Morin met with a small group in a secured chamber. No cameras, no records. "They're testing us," a military commander said. "Probes, pressure, whispers." Morin nodded. "They want to see if we crack. And if we do, they'll try something subtler." As if summoned by the words, a notification appeared on the central display. "Incoming communication, non-conquered origin." Morin studied it. "Put it through." The image that appeared was unfamiliar. A being with soft features and cautious eyes, not powerful, not dominant. "I speak for no empire," the alien said. "Only for those who have watched you." Morin said nothing, allowing the silence to work. "You broke the conquered's law," the alien continued. "That should have ended you." "It didn't," Morin replied. "No," the alien said. "It didn't." The being hesitated. "Other species want to know what happens now." Morin considered his words carefully. "Now we defend ourselves." "Nothing more?" "That's all," the alien asked. That's enough, Morin said. The transmission ended, but the message spread. Humanity was not recruiting, not rallying rebellion, not offering protection. They were simply existing on their own terms. That terrified the Conquered more than open resistance. In Conquered intelligence divisions, analysts argued late into cycles. They should have collapsed under pressure. They should have made demands. They should have struck first. But they didn't, one analyst said quietly. They waited. Waiting was something predators did when they were confident. Days passed, then weeks. The Conquered did not attack. Instead, trade restrictions quietly shifted, patrol routes adjusted. Diplomatic channels grew colder, pressure mounted, invisible but heavy. On Earth, life continued. People went to work. Children went to school. News outlets debated the future. There was fear, yes, but also a strange calm. Humanity had faced extinction before, often by its own hand. Compared to that, the galaxy felt familiar. Morin watched a recording from the original broadcast one more time. Not the execution, but the moment before, the silence, the choice. A junior officer entered the room. Sir, new intelligence. Morin turned. Speak. The Conquered has authorized a reclassification vote, the officer said. They're debating our status. Morin raised an eyebrow. Client, threat, or something else? Unknown, the officer replied. But the fact they're voting at all is unprecedented. Morin allowed himself a small, tired smile. Then it worked. What did? Showing them we can say no and live with the consequences. Far away in the Conquered council chamber, Velsun stared at the same data. They are not breaking, one counselor said. They are adapting faster than expected. They're inspiring others, another added. Quietly. Velsun closed their eyes. The empire had been built on fear and order. Humanity introduced uncertainty and choice. Send another message, Velsun said. To threaten, a counselor asked. No, Velsun replied. To observe, the council murmured. We must learn what they are, Velsun continued, before deciding what they become. On Earth, Morin received the message hours later. Administrator Velsun requests dialogue, the system announced. Morin sighed. They still don't understand. A commander beside him asked, Will you speak to them? Yes, Morin said, but not yet. Why wait? Morin looked at the stars beyond the reinforced glass. Because patience unsettles them. In the shadows of the galaxy, stories grew. Humans were called reckless, then brave, then dangerous, then something else entirely. A species from a death world that did not rush to dominate but refused to kneel. And as the Conquered hesitated, the balance of the galaxy began to shift, not through war, but through a single, irreversible realization. Humanity was not afraid anymore, and the universe had no idea what to do with that. The first real move did not come with ships or weapons. It came with silence. Conquered patrols withdrew from several border systems near human space. Trade convoys rerouted without explanation. Long-standing monitoring stations went dark one by one. To most species, this would have looked like mercy or retreat. To humans, it looked like preparation. Elias Morin stood in the command chamber as the updates came in. No one celebrated. Silence was never a gift from a predator. It was the pause before a test. They're changing the rules, a strategist said, not attacking us. Not acknowledging us either, Morin nodded. They want to see how we react when ignored. And if we push, they'll call it aggression. Humanity did neither. Earth did not advance fleets, did not issue threats, did not fill the void left by Conquered patrols. They held positions, steady and unprovoked, like a mountain that did not care who looked at it. That confused the Conquered even more. Inside their council chambers, debates turned sharp. They are benefiting from our restraint, one counselor argued. Minor species are reaching out to them. Not officially, another countered. The humans are careful, no treaties, no alliances. That makes them worse, the first snapped. They're becoming a symbol. Administrator Velsun listened without interrupting. The data was clear. Refuge species were no longer panicking at Conquered movements. Some had stopped paying tribute. Others delayed compliance, citing confusion or technical delays. Fear was leaking out of the system. We built order on inevitability, Velsun said at last. Humans broke that illusion. A counselor leaned forward. Then break them. Velsun did not answer immediately. Instead, a new projection appeared. It showed simulations of engagement with human forces. None ended cleanly. Every path led to loss. Even victory came at unacceptable cost. They are not strong enough to defeat us outright, Velsun said, but they are strong enough to make us bleed, and bleeding invites challengers. That truth settled heavily over the chamber. On Earth, a different conversation was happening. A small delegation from a neighboring system arrived quietly, without Concord approval. Their ship did not land in a city or a base. It landed in a remote desert, escorted but not surrounded. Morin met them in person. The alien representatives were cautious, their movements slow and respectful. They were not warriors, they were survivors. "We are not here to ask for protection," their leader said. "Only understanding." Morin inclined his head. "Speak." "You defied the conquered," the alien continued, "and they hesitated." "Yes," Morin said. "They hesitate with no one," the alien said softly. "Until now." Morin studied them. "What do you want from us?" "Hope," the alien admitted, "or confirmation that it was a mistake." Morin considered his answer carefully. "We cannot save you, we will not fight your wars." The alien's posture slumped slightly. "But," Morin continued, "we can show you something the conquered cannot erase." The alien looked up. "That choice still exists," Morin said. Even under pressure. The delegation left without promises, but when they returned to their people, the story changed. Humans did not offer salvation. They offered proof. That was more dangerous. The conquered responded with pressure that could not be traced to a single source. Economic strain, political interference, information manipulation. Worlds that leaned toward human ideas suddenly faced internal instability. Human intelligence noticed immediately. "They're testing our restraint," a commander said, "seeing if we'll intervene." Morin shook his head. "They want us to become what they fear. So we do nothing. We do what we always do," Morin replied. "We adapt." Human engineers quietly expanded communication networks, offering open-source systems resistant to conquered interference. They did not brand them as human tools. They released them as neutral technology. Across the galaxy, systems stabilized. The conquered noticed. "They're undermining us without firing a shot," a counselor said. "They're teaching others how to survive without us," another added. Velsun closed their eyes. "They are teaching independence." That was unacceptable. A decision was made, not war, demonstration. A conquered fleet entered a disputed system near human space, not one claimed by Earth, not one protected by treaty. A system inhabited by a minor species that had delayed tribute. The message was clear. Obedience had consequences. The fleet deployed with overwhelming force but stopped short of destruction. Cities were surrounded, power grids disabled, leaders detained. Across the galaxy, the lesson spread. The conquered still ruled. On Earth, the news arrived within minutes. "They crossed the line," a general said. "They're making an example." Morin's jaw tightened. "They're daring us to respond. And if we do, they reinforce fear." The room fell silent. Morin knew the risk. Acting would confirm the conquered's narrative. Not acting would betray everything humanity had shown the galaxy. He closed his eyes briefly. "Prepare a response," he said. Military officers straightened. "Fleet deployment." "No," Morin said. "Words." Hours later, a transmission spread across open channels, not targeted, not encrypted, available to anyone who listened. "This is humanity," Morin said calmly. "We recognize the conquered's authority over its own systems. We do not recognize punishment inflicted to enforce fear." The message continued. "We will not intervene militarily, we will not threaten, but we will remember." Across conquered space, leaders bristled. "That is an empty warning," one counselor scoffed. Velsun was not so sure. Days passed. The conquered withdrew from the occupied system, quietly, without explanation. No tribute was collected. The message was subtle but clear. Humanity had drawn another line, and the conquered had stepped back again. Among the stars, something shifted. Species that had never spoken to each other began exchanging ideas. Defensive planning, shared technology, mutual aid, not alliances, networks. The conquered could crush one world, even 10, but networks were harder, they bent instead of breaking. Velsun watched the reports pile up. "This is becoming unmanageable," a counselor said. "We must end it." Velsun stood slowly. "No, we must redefine it." The council fell silent. "Humanity is not our enemy," Velsun continued. "They are a mirror. They show what our rule looks like to those beneath it." "And what do you propose?" a counselor demanded. Velsun met their gaze. "We adapt or we fracture." On Earth, Morin received a final message. "Administrator Velsun requests formal negotiation," the system announced. "Under revised terms," Morin exhaled slowly. "They're ready," a commander said. Morin looked around the room at people who had carried fear for weeks without letting it rule them. "Yes," he said, "they are." Outside, the night sky was clear. Stars burned quietly, indifferent to empires and laws. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had done something far more disruptive. They had taught it that power was not absolute, and now the universe was listening. The negotiation did not take place on Earth. That was humanity's first condition. Administrator Velsun accepted it without protest, which alone signaled how much had changed. The meeting point was a neutral station once used by the conquered for ceremonial diplomacy. For centuries, species had come there to formalize surrender. Now it waited empty, its halls silent and uncertain. When the human delegation arrived, they did not bring a fleet. One ship, no escort, no display of power. They did not need one. Elias Morin stepped onto the station's polished floor and felt the weight of history pressed down around him. He had read the records, seen the footage, kneeling species, broken leaders, smiling envoys, not today. Velsun was already waiting, standing alone at the center of the chamber. The administrator looked older than before, their posture less rigid, their eyes sharper in a different way. "You chose a place of submission," Morin said calmly. Velsun inclined their head. "We chose a place of truth." That surprised Morin. They sat across from each other with no guards between them, no weapons visible, just two representatives of forces that had reshaped the galaxy without open war. "You executed our envoy," Velsun said. "That act cannot be undone." "No," Morin agreed, "nor should it be forgotten." Velsun studied him. "Do you regret it?" Morin answered without hesitation. "No," the administrator nodded slowly. "Then we begin honestly." For hours they spoke, not of territory, not of tribute, but of systems, of fear, of how empires were built and why they eventually failed. The conquered believed order required dominance, Velsun admitted. Fear was efficient, predictable, and brittle, Morin said. "Yes," Velsun replied quietly. "We see that now." They reviewed data together, trade routes stabilizing without conquered patrols, worlds communicating independently, technology spreading faster than control could contain it. "You didn't overthrow us," Velsun said. "You outgrew us." Morin leaned back. "We didn't plan to. We just refused to kneel." That was the heart of it, one refusal that exposed everything. Velsun folded their hands. "The conquered cannot continue as it was. And yet it will not simply vanish," Morin said. "No," Velsun agreed. "Too many depend on it, even now." Silence settled between them, not tense but thoughtful. "What are you offering?" Morin asked. Velsun met his gaze. "Recognition, full sovereignty, humanity will not be classified as a client species, ever." Morin nodded once. "And," he prompted, "we will remove the execution clause from all compliance rituals," Velsun continued. "No species will be required to kill its own to prove obedience." Morin felt something ease in his chest. "And the tribute systems?" he asked. Velsun hesitated. "They will be revised." Morin smiled faintly. "That sounds like a beginning." Velsun allowed themselves a rare expression of weariness. "You must understand there will be resistance, hardliners, those who believe fear is the only language." "We understand," Morin said. "We've met them before." "In ourselves." Velsun looked at him with renewed curiosity. "You truly came from a death world." "Yes," Morin replied. "That's why we know the cost of unchecked power." The agreement was signed quietly. No grand ceremony, no cheering crowds. Just two signatures that sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Within days, the conquered issued a reclassification notice. Humanity, sovereign independent power. Status, non-subordinate. Engagement protocols, negotiation only. It was unprecedented. Across the stars, reactions rippled outward. Some worlds celebrated openly, others watched in cautious silence. A few empires beyond conquered space took careful note. On Earth, the announcement was met not with celebration, but with reflection. There were no parades. No monuments erected to Morin or the execution. Humanity had learned that victories built on spectacle rarely lasted. Instead, people talked. In homes, in schools, in quiet conversations about what it meant to be seen at last. Morin returned to Geneva weeks later. He stood once more in the same chamber where Karzek had demanded submission. The room felt different now, lighter. A young diplomat approached him hesitantly. "Sir, what happens next?" Morin considered the question. "We live," he said simply, "on our own terms." "And if another empire tries the same thing?" Morin's eyes hardened just a little. Then they will learn the same lesson. Out in conquered space, Velsoon faced their own reckoning. Reforms were not painless. Some counselors resigned, others resisted and were quietly sidelined. The conquered shifted from enforcers to mediators, from rulers to regulators. It was slower, messier, but it endured. Velsoon often replayed the moment the envoy died, not with anger, with clarity. One death had saved countless others. That was a paradox only humans seemed comfortable with. Years passed. Humanity did not expand aggressively. They did not conquer, they traded, shared technology selectively, built defenses instead of empires. They became something new in the galactic ecosystem, a stabilizer. Among the stars, stories changed tone. Humans were no longer just deathworlders. They were called boundary makers, line holders, the species that taught the galaxy how to say no. And always the legend returned to that first moment, an envoy who thought humanity would kneel. A human who chose execution instead, not out of hatred, but out of refusal. In the quiet of his office, older now, Elias Morin looked up at a star map glowing softly on the wall. Humanity's place among the stars was small but unmistakable. A voice echoed in his memory, not alien but human, something said long ago in a different age. Survival without dignity is just a slower form of extinction. The galaxy had learned that lesson, and humanity had made sure it would never be forgotten.